welcome to another episode of Expat Tea. Bear with me, just getting myself together. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to watch a British news program, but it's not really a news program, is that right?
They call it a panel show.
A panel show? And it's basically like comedians and stuff talking about the news?
Yeah, it's kind of like a quiz show, but the quiz is kind of secondary. But they're talking
The
about
quiz
the
means
news.
nothing, right?
Yeah, it gives a shit who wins at the end. It's not about that.
And it's all what, news and political based?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to see how this goes.
So then we have one politician, one comedian, with the comedian and the journalist. Guy on the right's the comedian, guy on the left's the journalist.
So there's a journalist and a comedian and the host.
Yes, and then they have two guests, and one of the guests is generally a politician or a journalist, and the other one is generally a comedian.
So it's 5 people in total?
Yeah, including the host, yes.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, let's see what's up.
This guy in the middle is just a stand-up warm-up guy.
Oh. Not so game show, sort of newsy, political commentary show. Now, the guy on the left, the not the ex-bouncer, the other guy, the older guy, my left, sorry, is left leaning, right?
Yeah.
Liberal Party, Labour Party.
He's not part of the Labour Party, but he writes a magazine.
Okay, can I ask a question? Let me ask the question. The question is, his views are left leaning, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the woman is definitely part of a political party, though?
Yeah, she's a member of parliament.
She's a member of parliament.
Yeah.
Members of parliament are on the game show?
Yeah. She's a member of parliament. She's a Conservative Party member of parliament.
I understand that you said member of parliament. I get it. I'm just...
Because she's...
Currently a member of
Yeah.
parliament now. She literally will, do this, and her job is to go to work on Monday at parliament. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah.
And she's on a game show.
Kind of. Yeah.
It's not a political show. It's not a talk show. It's an actual...
Yeah.
That would never happen in America.
Because they ain't got the guts to do it, have they? They can't even take questions from bloody journalists in America without having them seen to beforehand and know what they can and cannot ask. Whereas you get asked whatever they want to ask.
I remember Barack Obama was on a late show, but I don't remember if it was after he was president or while he was president. But I do remember it was huge. A huge deal that he was on there because he's the president of the United States.
I remember.
So this, kind of like a congressman going on a game show. Now, I know, AOC has been on, late night shows and stuff. And I believe there's a few other Congress people that have been on talk shows to talk about stuff. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember anyone being on a game show type, this type of scenario where it's not...
You don't have any control.
I guess, U.S. late night talk shows are a little bit more like this, but they pander more than this did, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they were ripping her to her face.
Yeah.
And about her boss. And everything.
And you can tell she was a little uncomfortable sometimes, but...
Yeah, but she could hold her own. She came back down a couple of times, which is fine.
But that's just unusual.
Yeah. So this is the comedy side of things. And you do get a few on this show, you get one on every episode.
This always has an MP or somebody in politics on it?
Yeah, they're not always in politics now. Some of them are old
former politicians.
But they're always known.
Well, see, that I can see, right? That makes sense, and that I could see happening in America more, right? Like political pundit. Mm-hmm. They become a political pundit almost after they serve their office.
Yeah.
Actually, that happens all the time in America. Just become a news consultant on Fox News or something. When they're no longer in the cabinet or whatever.
The difference is that the news stations in America are propaganda stations.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas these ones, they're not perfect, but at least with the BBC, you get differing opinions on the same show.
Yeah, like he was ripping the Conservative Party and she was ripping the Labour Party.
Now, it does depend on what journalist you have, what show you're on, because some of them are very central and do pander to the government. But if you are paying attention, you can see through the bollocks most of the time.
Isn't the BBC legendary for being quite close with the Crown as well, though, and that part of the government?
They'll never speak out against it. So I suppose you could say that, yeah. I mean, they criticise and they let journalists and they allow comedians and all that kind of thing to criticise.
But they wouldn't do a piece against the monarch.
They wouldn't completely, no, they wouldn't do anything like that probably. But
well, yeah, I mean, they were pretty much making fun of William
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
then they said something about Harry and his wife.
Yeah.
I know they're not royals technically anymore, but still.
But again, it's like I say, it depends what show you're watching, who's doing it. It's not the BBC as such, it's who's doing it. But they have cancelled a couple of shows that are like this that would speak out. They've cancelled the show.
Yeah?
Yeah. And said, oh, yeah, we've gone as far as we can.
What about free speech and shit?
We don't have free speech in Britain.
You don't have free speech in Britain?
Well, there's hate speech, so you can.
No. All right. Yeah. Like, free speech, and from what I understand, no, I'm not a scholar in American politics or anything, but what I understand and my interpretation of free speech is that it's as long as it doesn't cause harm or instill violence. And hate speech would come under instill violence umbrella, in my opinion.
You can't get arrested for speech though in America, can you? You can say anything you want. You could be pro-Nazi.
As long as it doesn't lead to violence. Like if you're saying, I hate the Jews and I want you to go and kill all the Jews, and then there's a huge, massive, massacre in your town of people who follow you of the Jews, then you can necessarily be held for instilling that violence.
Okay, here you can get arrested before the violence, just for saying it. So that's why I would say it's not free speech here as such.
Well, see, I think we agree, actually. I think that you're just looking at it from a different point of view. I agree that if you're calling for violence, then that's hate speech, and you should be held accountable for hate speech. I don't think you should have to wait for the massacre to happen in order for you to be held accountable for that. But I do think it's a fine line, and it's a difficult line sometimes to cross, to see. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think if you're going to claim to have free speech, then whether you agree with whatever someone's saying, if you like it or not, you should be able to say if you have free speech.
No, I agree with you. I agree with that 100%. That's what I'm saying. I think we actually agree. I think it's just where the line is from the violence standpoint that you and I might be a little bit off on. But we both agree that hate speech is speech that instills violence and some kind of uproar, some kind of negative effect on society. Yes, I agree that is, that's detrimental to society, and it should be nipped in the bud sooner than waiting for the massacre. But that line is difficult to see sometimes, and sometimes you don't catch it in time, and sometimes you have someone like Trump who kind of speaks out of both sides of his mouth and can get away with certain things, you know what I mean, because of the way they say it, or being only suggestive, and then it's not really, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of gray area, unfortunately, I think, in those some of those scenarios.
I'm just thinking the difference on the legality side, the difference between America and England is, America you won't get arrested for just saying it because of the freedom of speech that they have.
So you think you can get arrested here for saying go kill all the Jews?
No, I know you can.
You can?
Yeah, it's a law. It's natural law. Hate speech. People have been arrested just recently for...
Can you get arrested for saying something like they're the problem? Just for anyone who sees this later and might catch just a piece of this, we are not advocating for violence in any way, shape, or form.
Or hate
And we
speech.
have no hate out there for any particular party or religion or anything like that. It's just a topic for discussion. We only picked Jewish people just because we had just watched a documentary about the right wing in America choosing Jewish Americans and black people and Latinos, and that's all. That's the first thing that came up just because we were watching that. Just want to make sure that's clear. I don't want anyone to think we're instilling hate speech because we're not. It's just a discussion.
No, actually, in many ways, I think that the Americans have got it right, and that you should have freedom to say whatever you want. Because if you have freedom to say whatever you want, and no one's scared to say whatever they want, you know who you're fucking dealing with.
Yeah.
You know if you're dealing with a scumbag. You know if you're dealing with someone who's got messed up views or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas here,
It's because it's kind of covert, because you have to use covert language, so it's not always obvious,
Yeah.
and you can't always really get it ahead of time.
yeah, there was protests going on for Palestinians today in London,
Yeah.
and the right wing was saying about these people. I can't remember who it was. There wasn't that many. There was like 100,000 people protesting. There was like 10 people that were saying something about jihad. And they wanted them arrested for saying about having a jihad or whatever.
I don't know what jihad is.
The people put it toward when Muslim extremists are saying that like it's a death thing towards other people.
Okay.
So if you're having a jihad, it's like you want to commit atrocities. You want to
Okay.
kill people. And then some people were saying, well, in that culture, jihad means something else, and you have to get to know what it really means. So I kind of understand where one side's saying, well, everybody thinks or assumes this is what it means because culturally and historically that's what they've meant.
Right.
That makes sense. And I can understand why some people think that they're using, oh, well, you don't really know what it means this in our culture, blah, blah, blah. It can come across as like an excuse.
Yes, but sometimes the translation does get lost.
It is, but it's gone so far now that you can't.
It's difficult to determine which is
Yeah.
actually the right avenue.
Yeah. But if you
That's what I was saying with the gray area, and the blurry line sometimes between instilling violence and meaning hate, and hate speech and having an opinion. It can be very difficult. Like our encounter yesterday at the castle with that gentleman, I'm saying it to be nice, made us extremely uncomfortable.
Whether he was joking or not.
Right, but even though it made us extremely uncomfortable and we thought it was inappropriate, I don't think it was necessarily like he had a right to say whatever he wanted to say.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, and I think it's disgusting, and it made me sick to my stomach. But I believe in freedom. Unfortunately, I don't think that. But my thing is I don't think shutting down speech is the answer. I think it's more about education and conversation and knowledge, and you know what I mean, like having information and having the whole picture. And you're not going to get everybody. You're not going to change everybody's minds. But if you change enough people's minds, then society can evolve. I think that's the better approach. I mean, I hate violence anyway, so I'm always going to advocate for something other than violence in most situations, other than self-defense. But yeah, this freedom of speech thing is difficult. So you have freedom of speech here. It's just it's limited speech.
That's why I wouldn't call it freedom of speech. If it's freedom of speech, you can say what you want. We can't. So I wouldn't call it freedom of speech.
I get you. Okay. No, that's a valid point.
Regulated speech.
Regulated speech, yeah. That's interesting. I never thought of it like that.
Freedom is freedom.
No, I agree. I think if you're free, if you have freedom, you should have freedom.
But like America espouses ultimate freedom. But I think also ultimate freedom creates chaos.
Well, that's why you need to have freedom with responsibility. You can't just have freedom. Because freedom means you can kill whoever you want, you can steal from whomever you want. Like, you can't have that, right? Because you can't have a functioning society with that kind of freedom, right? So you have to have some kind of responsibility attached to it. And then I think that's really where a lot of the groups tend to clash, is on that, where that line should be and where that boundary should be.
Unfortunately, you've got the extreme of both sides coming out at the moment. Well, mainly the right, because the left doesn't know how to do shit. But
It's so weird.
the people in the middle who could do something ain't doing anything other than lining their own pockets. And that means the middle on both sides, isn't it? I mean, look at both of our countries.
Because they have no real principles. They're just all they give a shit about is themselves. That's what it boils down to. They just care about their own. It's all linked to power. Really, it's not even, the money is a byproduct of the power.
I mean, why else have we seen so much American style stuff happening over here?
Yeah,
It's kind of
no.
shocked us.
Makes me want to move to New Zealand.
Matthew'd love that. Names. My brother would love that.
Already said no.
Yeah.
We've moved one country once.
Well, I don't
Why
ever.
have to do it again?
At this point, I don't keep anything off the table anymore, because we just don't know what's gonna happen in the future. I never thought we would move here this soon either, but. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that random, different kind of thing. I thought it might be a little bit more fun for y'all, rather than just sitting there and watching me talk. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you like the video, share it, and subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Actually, probably, I don't know. I'm thinking about possibly going live a little more often. You guys let me know what you think. And we'll go from there. I hope you guys have a good week, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you all. Bye.